a pair of sisters with a brand new manga-style graphic novel, creative writing tips from a marathon interviewee. I hope the Force was with you last weekend because we're getting some book recs from a real-life Sith Lord. I'm your host, Garrett K. Jones, and this is The Right Way. Hey, welcome back to The Right Way, where we talk book recommendations, author interviews, and creative writing tips. If you haven't done so already, please make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, and click the bell for notifications on new videos. I've got some great new segments for this month's episode, but I want to share some important announcements with you. First up, if you missed any part of last month's Author Awareness April Marathon, you can find that playlist right up here above my head. It was a great month of interviews. It was great to have Paul D. Smith return since he had been one of the writers I spoke with during the very first marathon several years ago. Second, if you missed any part of last month's writing workshop live stream, you can also find that link for the video right up here above my head. The April workshop focused on writing thrillers. And that brings us to announcement number 3. Next week is the May Writing Workshop, which piggybacks off of the last month by delving into writing mystery and detective noir stories. Just like usual, the workshop and the live stream kick off at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you're local, the class is free, and it will be held at the Hanford branch of the Kings County Library. If you're not local, the link to YouTube will be dropped on Instagram. Lastly, I want to let viewers know what's happening with my current writing projects. I currently have 3 projects in development. I started developing a science fiction and space opera story. I've been slowly but surely developing the outline. I've also spent the last month working on the audiobook edition of Midnight Playground, which I hope to have released this summer before Season 7 comes to an end. The third project I've been working on is actually Book 6 in my Archives of a Sync Rain series. Over the last 8 weeks or so, I've broken through the mental barriers that I was experiencing over the last year and a half, and I've renewed work on this project. As of the time of this recording, I have drafted 6 new chapters, and the manuscript itself is up to 89,235 words. It's been awesome to regain my passion for the series that started all of this. All right, I've talked enough. Let's get on with the show. So in light of last week being Star Wars Day weekend, I invited my War of the Stars co-host Brian Karasek to join in as a guest host. He provides a tremendous insight on the podcast, especially on all things Sith, Empire, and the dark side. He also does a fantastic Emperor Palpatine cosplay. So here he is, providing his top 10 book recommendations.
Greetings, citizens of the Galactic Empire. Brian Karasek here, coming at you with a list of top 10 books I've read in my extensive career reading Star Wars books. Number 10, Red Harvest by Joe Schreiber. Now, this is one of 2 very popular zombie stories in the Star Wars community. This one takes place at a Sith academy thousands of years before the events of the original trilogy. And it's a great book. And by the way, when you read it, and you should read it, I'll wait. Okay, you're back. If you catch the Fahrenheit 451 reference in there, you and I will be friends. It does take place in the EU community. It is Legends rather than current canon, but it's still a great read. Number 9, I'm going to go with Lost Stars by Claudia Gray. Now, Lost Stars came out fairly early in the Disney canon, and I have to say I resisted it for some time because it seems a little bit like YA romance fiction, and it kind of is. But honestly, it really appeals to me because it is the story of two young kids who basically grow up together, dreaming of the day they can join the Empire. Number 8, Lords of the Sith by Paul S. Kemp. It's kind of a buddy cop movie with Palpatine and Vader on a long trip. Really enjoy that. There's a great scene with Vader and Palpatine crash landing on a ship, or on a sort of an unpopulated planet. It really shows the relationship between master and apprentice. It's sort of, there's a real quick about face in the Palpatine-Anakin relationship as soon as Anakin takes his role as a Sith Lord. All of a sudden, the avuncular, kindly old man is just gone. Number 7, Star Wars Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade by Delilah Dawson. Similar to Lost Stars, I enjoy a book where we get to see a character that has joined the Empire for good reasons. As a veteran of the military myself, I know that sometimes we join organizations that take steps that we might not necessarily agree with, that other people don't agree with, but not everybody, again, joins the Empire for mustache-twirling villainous reasons. Great, great read. I got the audiobook, really enjoyed it. Number 6 is Tarkin by James Luceno. That's a great book. It's a really in-depth dive on the entire Tarkin family. We get to see what made Tarkin who he is, and there's just some amazing interaction between Vader and Tarkin. It should not be missed. James Luceno is truly a star in the constellation of Star Wars novelists. So give it a shot, Tarkin, and also within the Disney continuity. Next, we're looking at Dark Disciple, number 5 by Christie Golden. Dark Disciple was also co-written by Katie Lucas. It is essentially created from unproduced episodes of the Clone Wars, and you got to check it out. The premise is that the Jedi Order is engaging in an assassination mission against Count Dooku. So the core relationship in the book is Asajj Ventress, who is approached by the Jedi to help. Number 4 is not just one book, but it is the entire Dr. Aphra comic series. Folks, Dr. Aphra is, to me, one of the best additions to the new canon since Disney took over. If Indiana Jones and Han Solo and Lara Croft all got together and had a kid who grew up to be an amoral arms dealer who works for Darth Vader, she would be Dr. Aphra. It's a great series. It's amazing. There's kind of a Batman gambit to her. Aphra's always got an escape clause. There's always a loophole she's ready for. This is also the book that brought us Black Krrsantan, the Wookiee bounty hunter that we meet in Book of Boba Fett. It also introduces us to two impeccable characters, the droids 000 and BT-1. Number 3, the Vader comic series. This is also in the Marvel continuity. Vader is where we are introduced to Aphra. That's the only reason Vader takes precedence over that. The Vader comic series began with filling in the spaces between the original trilogy films. And you get to see so much more. I feel that after the prequels, Vader was just like, we see him as a callow youth. We see him as a tragic figure, and I don't care for that aspect of Vader. I prefer to see him as the butcher of the Hyades way, of like he's just a full-on, he's a monster. And the way that these comics characterize him, again, we see a great deal of the interaction between Palpatine and Vader and how that power struggle is. And you think Vader is betraying Palpatine, but Palpatine's known about it all along, and you think Palpatine's going to kill him for it, but Palpatine's so proud. It's a great, great insight into the Sith relationship. Check it out, the Vader comic book series. Book number 2 is Revenge of the Sith by Matthew Stover. This is within the current canon, but kind of technically only because it is the novelization of a film. There are some aspects of it that are sort of dated since Disney took over, as in where is Ahsoka Tano? But be that as it may, Revenge of the Sith is a great book. And number 1, if anybody's heard me talk about Star Wars for more than 3 minutes, you're not going to be surprised that my number 1 Star Wars novel is Darth Plagueis by James Luceno. I think it's a tribute to what a villain Palpatine is, that he is the most interesting character in a book titled by the title of his master. We began seeing Darth Plagueis at the moment that Darth Plagueis goes from apprentice to master. Then we see Plagueis' rise to power, exploring the Force and looking for an apprentice. And then about a quarter of the way into the book, we meet young Palpatine on Naboo, an 18-year-old student who immediately clicks with Darth Plagueis, and we see that relationship take off. And so the broad scope of the book is that we see Palpatine from age 18 up until he becomes Chancellor. Thanks, folks. I appreciate you listening to me, and get out there and start reading.
Thank you to Brian for being this month's Top 10's guest host. If you want to connect with Brian on the Sith Library Group page on Facebook, you'll find the link found in the video description alongside with his recommended book titles and their ISBN numbers. I connected with this month's interviewees a couple of years ago, and it's been a long time coming trying to get them slated for an interview. They wanted to make sure that their first book, The Bohemian Trials, was in publication. So let me introduce Chíc and Gwen to you. All right. Well, Chíc, Gwen, thank you for joining me on the show. It's a pleasure to have you guys. How you doing today?
Good.
Good. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure to have you. So tell me about what you work on and what you guys have created.
We are creators of our own dystopian graphic novel series with just a splash of horror. It's called The Bohemian Trials. We also refer to it as an American manga to better depict the stylistic direction of the art and story.
And also, I think to better explain, I'm Chíc and she's Gwen, and I'm the author of The Bohemian Trials, and she is the illustrator. To give like a quick little pitch, we took a really brutally honest take on superhumans, is kind of how we like to say it, because we're firm believers that if there were some select people that had superhero abilities and the rest of the world didn't, the rest of the world wouldn't really like that and would do their best to suppress it due to fear, envy, pure hatred, whatever that be. And that's what is going on in our universe. 15% of the global population are behemoths, which is the term for superhumans in our universe, so very negative connotation. It's set in an LA Big Brother's Always Watching locale, so lots of propaganda plastered everywhere, a lot of rampant crime, whole shebang. And we follow our leading lady, Lyra Reese. She is very morally bent. Her codes that she goes by is very impartial and strict. And so she sees everything going on in her city and nothing really being done about it. And so she has her vigilante team, and they go and take matters into their own hands under the cover of night, but not with flashy masks and colorful tights, but rather paper bags for their masks and pajama pants. They're counterintuitively protecting the people that seek to suppress them and breaking the law to prevent further law from being broken, all in the name of just doing what's right. But of course, that only sets the stage because the horror aspect has to come in, but that's the opening 2 pages of our book for volume 1, so we don't want to spoil those things. And we like to leave people in the unknown so they can enjoy the book.
How did you guys get into creating a graphic novel? Because I mean, Chíc, you're obviously a writer. Like, what was the process? Like, were you always set to start that kind of a process, or did you start with doing more like a narrative structure and then you wanted to go into that artistic realm?
So, for one, I've known I've wanted to be a writer since I was like 13. And I remember pitching that to my parents, and I was so nervous, but they've been 100% supportive of that decision and direction. And at that point, I had written like 200 plus pages of a really not planned out novel, and it's 13-year-old me, so the writing's not at all good. That will never see the light of day. But so I was on track for going full regular prose. That's always been what I was into and things like that. But for the graphic novel thing, I mean, it all started with the fact that my sister's a phenomenal artist. I'll always be her number one fan, and she was just doodling away what's now the leading 6 members of the team, and she was just sketching for the past time. And I had come to her room the next day because she's my sister and we're under the same roof at this point in time. And I was like, here's their names, here's their abilities, here's their personalities. And Gwen didn't fully agree with all my personality decisions at first, but now she is. Now she does. But like, I just had this whole universe built off of a drawing she made, and it kind of took her aback at first. But that's definitely what pushed us in the direction. I think Gwen has a little more on her end, though.
When I was in 4th grade, like I've always wanted to make comics since I was young. I remember like in the 4th grade bringing these papers like kind of just stuck together, showing my teacher like, look, I made a comic. But like definitely as I got older, like manga kind of became the more prevalent one, just because it's could get darker and grittier and it really just fits more. But as Cheslin mentioned, it wasn't until I was 14 where I drew the first set of characters, which ironically is now our main 6. But Izzy was the very first, and we've like worked on the story ever since. And it wasn't until 2022 when we met our mentors who work in the comic book industry, and I believe that's like really when God really solidified for us, like, this is his plan for us. He wants us here, and like he's even used our work to work on ourselves and like reflect on ourselves. So yeah.
Obviously, manga is a huge inspiration for both of you, but what are some of the other inspirations that you picked from when you were working on a project like this?
So we were both raised on comics, but funnily enough, neither one of us like really got into X-Men. The one that I was raised on was old school Batman's Adventures, Detectives, and the Dark Knight series. And I think it's just because those really were darker stories. Even as a kid, I was like, these are so cool. But yeah, those are the ones that really inspired me, I think.
I was the Marvel kid between the two of us, so my dad got the whole range of DC Marvel through by us two kids. But I was a huge Spider-Man kid growing up, but I think the biggest inspiration from specifically that part of my life would be the Kraven's Last Hunt arc from the Amazing Spider-Man. That was like my first dark comic that I think I really got to read, and I just loved how heavy the themes were and things like that. And I was like, ooh, I want to go down this direction if I become a writer. But obviously the comics and manga, like Attack on Titan's another big one, but like obviously those are big influences. But I'd say on the literary side of things, I mean, what got me into reading and writing was I picked up my first Nancy Drew novel at like 10 years old, and that was what set me down the path that I went. And then I got super deep into dystopian, probably influenced the genre we chose, by like junior high and all the way through high school. I was obsessed with like Hunger Games all the way to 1984. So the full range. But those definitely, I think, pushed us in at least for me, pushed me in the direction for the writing and the genre. Those inspired me the most, probably.
What have been some of the challenges that you guys have faced in the creation of the Bohemian Trials?
Well, I know for one, I think one of the biggest ones was the fact, I mean, we're sisters, so there was that having to find that business partner sibling balance. And that did take the whole time we made the book to really hone in on how to function that way, especially that first year of working on the book. It was a little tough. We knew going into this, we didn't want like work life to bleed into personal life and vice versa. Like if we're having a work argument and things are just tense, I don't want it to make me tense with her on a regular basis. This is my sister. Yeah, that definitely proved to be a challenge. And I think it was because we had to learn to trust each other on a way different level than familial.
There was also though some physical challenges. I think that this was kind of the first challenge that I like had to go through, honestly, before even like learning to work with each other. And it was like right when we met our mentors, I got diagnosed with a variant of carpal tunnel, and the doctors had me on splints, and they're like, you gotta stop wearing them once the pain subsides. It probably will take like 2 weeks. It turned into 2 to 3 months. But what was crazy was right when I got back to work, my art just improved insanely. It was like the first time really learning, like, okay, God's timing. It's not always going to be in your hands. You can't really choose. But as for other challenges, like Cheslin said, there were quite a few. But I mean, we lost so many pages because my tablet would crash, licensing problems with fonts, like resizing pages multiple times, finding a printing place that doesn't take IP, which is huge. And then like Cheslin's pages would crash, but we had literally problems all the way up to book drop night because our website wasn't cooperating with us that night. So, but it's all definitely been worth a while. Like it's all been worth it, and it's been a massive learning lesson. So Lord willing, volume 2 will be a lot more smooth sailing.
That brings me to my next question. If you had any advice for other would-be authors, artists, or graphic novelists, what would you say to them?
I think I have 2 big advice, and I think that the first one is, and I think it's the greatest lesson, is don't put so much pressure on yourself with work deadlines. Like you will say, I will be done with this, and then something completely out of your control will happen, and you will feel defeated, but it's like you don't have control over it. And I truly believe that like it's all depends on God's timing, and it will be perfect by the time you're done with it. Like it may take so long, and it may take many, many, many mental breakdowns before you see the progress from like where you started, and you may want to cry, or you may be so tired that you can't even cry because it's been so long. But like it's definitely worth it, and you're not alone if you feel that pressure, but there's no point in putting so much pressure on yourself. And then the other thing I think is one thing that's a pretty common question is where do you start, or like where do I start if I want to do this? And I think that a lot of people it sounds so stupid, but just doing it, you won't ever feel like you're doing the work that you want until you're done and be like, wow, I guess I just did it. Because we've gone through this, and I feel like even drawing pages for volume 2, I still don't feel like I know what I'm doing.
For advice, I feel like one, but this also comes into just the experience of working with my sister, but just in general too, not just if you're working with somebody you know, but that work-life balance is so important. It's so easy, especially with this kind of stuff, you're working from home most of the time. It's so easy to get yourself stuck at your desk way longer than you ought. The sun rises and you're there, and then it sets and you're still there, and then it's about to rise again and you're still there. And so I put so much pressure on, emphasis on the fact that like really working to maintain a healthy work-life balance is what's going to keep you functioning as an author and illustrator. And then also the big one, going off of like pretty much the last question, what we were talking about with the struggles and things, is like, do not let naysayers stop you from pursuing what you want, like your passion and your dream of becoming an author or an illustrator.
Well, we're coming up to the end of the interview. How can viewers connect with the two of you, and how can they get copies of your work?
So we've got all kinds of ways to get a hold of us. One, we have a plethora of social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. Most active on Instagram, I do have to be honest about that. Everything is at Chess and Gwen. And then everything's at the Bohemian Trials minus Twitter. That one's just Bohemian Trials because it's not enough characters space. But you can also get a hold of us, and all these things are linked also through our website. That's chessandgwen.com and also the bohemiantrials.com, but really chessandgwen.com is the predominant website because Bohemian Trials is just explaining the series and the project and what's there. But chessandgwen.com is also where you can get a hold of the book because we have an online shop there. So just chessandgwen.com/shop is where you can purchase a copy. But if you want to curb shipping costs, then you can also catch us at an event, which we are always posting on.
Well, Chess, Gwen, thank you for being on the show. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you guys.
Thank you.
for
You
having
as well.
us.
It's been great.
Yeah.
A big thank you to Ches and Gwen for being the May Author Awareness interviewees. Now, if you'd like to connect with them or get copies of the Bohemian Trials, you can find those links down in the video description. You can also catch the unedited version of this conversation through my support page on Patreon. So last month, I got to interview Danielle DJ Harrington for the second conversation of Author Awareness April 2025. She was gracious enough to return as a guest host for the May episode to provide you guys with some writing tips from her experiences as an author.
Oh my gosh, you're a writer. That's so cool. What's your book about? That question used to freak me out because I had no idea what to say. So if you are querying your books to agents for traditional publishing, or if you simply want to write a back cover blurb because you're going the independent route, let's talk about the 5 things that your back cover blurb should have to be an effective pitch. I'm going to use my book as an example for this video. Your back cover blurb should answer these 5 questions. Number 1, who is your main character? Number 2, what do they want? Number 3, what are they willing to do to get what they want? Number 4, what is standing in their way? And number 5, what happens if they fail? In other words, what are the stakes of the story you are telling? So I'm going to read Keyholder's back cover blurb, and we're going to talk about it. Beware of the darkness and those who seek to conquer it. Octavia Fletcher, the daughter of Restwick's wealthy wheat overseer, finds herself bloodbound to a key that holds an ancient magic coveted by all the kingdoms of the land. The well of eternal healing in Hritza has been shrouded in a veil of impenetrable darkness for a millennium, its precious waters cut off by the gods of old. But now Octavia possesses the key that can unlock it. Captured by a bounty hunter with a mysterious past, Octavia must fight to survive a slew of enemies who are keen to steal her and the key's power for themselves. But danger lurks not only in the evils of men. The darkness surrounding the fallen kingdom of Hritza is creeping past its boundaries for the first time since its creation, and anyone caught in its clutches perishes. Time is running out, not only for Octavia, but for all the wells of power gifted to humanity. Only the keyholder can walk through the darkness and reverse its destruction, but can Octavia endure long enough to do so? And can she survive her own heart when it comes to the bounty hunter who has proven time and time again that he will do anything to save her? So, question number 1, who is our main character? Octavia Fletcher, the daughter of a wealthy wheat overseer. Number 2, what does she want? To survive the aftermath of being bloodbound to this cursed key that everybody's after. And I'm going to combine the next two. What is she willing to do to survive, and what is standing in her way of surviving? Well, she is willing to endure, because only the keyholder can walk through this killing darkness and reverse its destruction. And all these enemies are after her and the key and the power that it holds. She has to endure all of that. And what happens if she fails? Well, the killing darkness, since it's moving past its boundaries for the first time, is going to come and swallow up and kill everybody. On top of that, it says all of the wells of power gifted to humanity by the gods of old are at stake because of this killing darkness. So humanity loses access to all magic. I think the biggest takeaway is, as long as your back cover blurb, your pitch, is effectively communicating what are the stakes, and if the main character fails, what's going to happen, then you're on the right track.
A big thank you to Danielle for being this month's Creators Corner guest host. Now, if you'd like to connect with her and check out her work, you can find the links to all of her socials, her website, and books down in the video description. Hey, thanks for watching. If you haven't done so by this point in the video, please make sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications on new videos just like this one. If you're interested in being a channel supporter, you can find links for Patreon and the merch store on Teespring, or if you'd like to make a one-time donation, you can find my link for Cash App. Make sure to tune in next week for the May Writing Workshop livestream featuring tips for writing mysteries and detective noir stories. I'll see you then.